So far this year, we've seen the Jimmy Butler trade go down, and we're seeing a couple of more players and teams come out and say that they want to make a trade happen. But even if they haven't said it publicly, for whatever the reason might be, there's definitely more players and teams that need to make trades happen this year. And today we're looking at 8 of them. So before we do get into that, let's take a look at a quick honorable mention. Kemba Walker. Kemba only comes up as an honorable mention because neither him or Hornets management, Michael Jordan, want him to be traded. And that's a terrible move for them because the man's finally had his breakout season this year and is consistently putting up 28 points a game. But the Hornets still aren't a good team and aren't going to make any noise in the playoffs even if they get there. So right now, Kemba's got the most trade value that he's going to have his entire career. But instead, Charlotte still would rather keep a bad team together. Now onto the real list with number 8, Anthony Davis. There's been rumors about Anthony Davis getting traded for a couple of years now. They used to be thrown around a lot due to the fact that the Pelicans weren't getting Davis any help on their roster. But even now that they've rounded up probably the best roster from a talent standpoint that they've had in the time that Davis has been there, the team still doesn't have depth and still isn't doing great, sitting at about 500 right now. So the rumor is if the team's still bad by the trade deadline, they're gonna finally seriously consider trading AD. And personally, I think that's the right move because it's been 6 years now and the team still hasn't been able to turn into a serious playoff contender. But the 4 teams that were put out there that Anthony Davis would prefer to be traded to are the 76ers, Celtics, Lakers, and Knicks. Now there's always the chance that he doesn't get traded and waits to join one of these teams when his contract's up in 2020, but with how things are looking and if those rumors are true, it looks like he's gonna get traded this year. So the 76ers don't have much to offer besides draft picks and Markelle Fultz, so we can count them out, and the Knicks would probably have to give up half their roster to get Davis, which is still a small possibility for them, but not likely. So that leaves the Lakers and the Celtics as the only 2 teams that have the assets to have a true chance at getting him. But AD physically can't get traded to Boston this year because the team can't have 2 players on contracts under the Derrick Rose rule. Kyrie Irving's the other one, but he's gonna sign a new contract in the offseason, so he could get traded there when the season's over. And even then, that would probably be the best move for the Pelicans, because the Celtics have the most to offer. But if they really did want to trade him this year, LA still has assets like draft picks, Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma, and Brandon Ingram that could work for New Orleans if they're looking to rebuild, and would team up Davis with LeBron James and whatever other free agent they go after in the offseason. Number 7, Gordon Hayward. Now if the Celtics do plan on trading for Davis in the offseason and that all works out, then it's best to hold on to Hayward to put towards that trade. But if they don't, they need to start considering looking at trades for him. And now, Hayward's the only guy on the list that doesn't necessarily need to be traded this year, but it's something to consider because right now the Celtics aren't playing up to expectations and neither is Hayward. And it'd be interesting to see what they could get for him. I mean, if he's gonna come off the bench like he has been recently, I'm sure they can find a trade that would give him more of a use on another team and give them players that excel coming off the bench, giving them even more depth. Number 6, John Wall. Now, the Wizards are going to be talked about as potential destinations for pretty much every other deal in this video, since it's clear that they're open to trading anyone on the roster. But since we're not going to name trades for every single Wizards player, the main trade we'd care about is one revolving around John Wall. And I've thought it was clear that they've needed to make a move like this for a while now. But right now, from what I've seen, there aren't too many scenarios that would work out great for both teams in a deal for Wall, especially considering the fact that he's going to be making $37 million next season. Playoff teams that could use him, where maybe some deal could be worked out, would be the Pelicans, who have pieces like Drew Holiday and Julius Randle, the Knicks, who with Wall and Porzingis would have a bigger chance at attracting a 3rd star in free agency next season, or the Pistons, who don't have the most to offer, but it would give them a big 3 of Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond, and John Wall. And then there's deals with the Lakers or the Miami Heat that could work out for both teams, but maybe not make the most sense with their long-term plans. Alright, I said we're only looking at John Wall's trades, but while we're on the subject, the Lakers might not work for Wall, but Beal would be a great second option for LeBron. And they can make that happen by giving away one of their young stars in return. And then another trade that could work for Beal would be to send him to Charlotte in return for a deal centered around Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Malik Monk, and a 1st round pick. Number 5, CJ McCollum. We saw the Raptors switch up their backcourt, we see the Wizards trying to do the same like I just talked about, and now it's the Blazers' turn to step up and finally make a change to their backcourt. Whether they do that or not though is what we'll have to wait and see. But either way, there's no doubt that it needs to be done. Now I haven't seen too many great deals that could be made for CJ McCollum to instantly make Portland better, but they do need to find one. A while back there was an idea thrown around to trade Bradley Beal for CJ McCollum straight up, but I don't think that would do anything for either team. But either way, the Blazers need to make some kind of deal for McCollum to try and take their team to the next level before Dame's career is wasted on an average team, and also before they try giving up and trading everyone away like the Wizards. Number 4, Nikola Vucevic. You really only need a solid center, a solid power forward, and some good backups to build your team around. But over the last 6 years, the Orlando Magic have drafted Dario Saric, Aaron Gordon, Domantas Sabonis, Jonathan Isaac, Mo Bamba, and have gotten Nikola Vucevic, Serge Ibaka, Timofey Mozgov, and Bismack Biyombo through trades. I don't know why they've thought it was necessary to keep drafting and trading new big men every single year, but it's about time they stick with who they have. But with them still being a bad team, they need to keep their roster young and let guys like Mo Bamba and Eric Gordon develop, so the best move is to trade Vucevic, who's in his prime right now and is a great center. And in return, they without a doubt need a point guard and more perimeter players. Now I didn't find any perfect trade scenarios, but some teams that could make something happen would be the Wizards, Lakers, Bucks, or maybe the Trailblazers. Vucevic would be an upgrade at center for all of those teams, and they could all give up wing players or picks in return. Number 3, Kent Bazemore. The Hawks currently have the worst record in the league, and they're not a good team. But they do have one of the brightest futures with young guys like Trae Young, Taurean Prince, and John Collins. But then they also have Kent Bazemore, who's one of the better two-way players in the league and is in the middle of his prime. He's not doing any good getting his talents wasted on a bad Hawks team, so they don't need to wait any longer before they trade him to a contender for young players or draft picks to help build their team for the future. Now the best scenario I could see is for him to get traded to the Houston Rockets so he can play small forward for them, because they still desperately need one to take Trevor Ariza's spot from last year. Melo didn't work and they missed out on Jimmy Butler. But what we did learn from all that is that they're willing to give up first round picks to fill that spot. So I'm sure that the Hawks would take a couple of them in return for Kent Bazemore. Number 2, Kevin Love. With the Cavs having a mixture of young players, overpaid veterans, and players that meet somewhere in the middle of those categories, and with them being one of the worst teams in the league, they have no use for Kevin Love and need to get to work on rebuilding as soon as possible. And with Love being in the middle of his prime right now, they need to get him on a contending team or a team looking to be a contender for some young players or draft picks in return. And I think there's a few teams in the league where a deal like that could make sense. With a team like the Bucks, who could definitely use Kevin Love to stretch the floor, and they have young assets like Malcolm Brogdon and Thon Maker that they could make a trade with. Or a team like the Blazers who need a quality big man, or the Wizards who have young guys like Otto Porter who they definitely wouldn't mind trading away, or even a surprise team looking to make improvements like Denver or OKC. Either way though, Cleveland needs to stop wasting time and trade Kevin Love this season. Number 1, Markelle Fultz. It's not surprising to see Fultz in this spot with all the trade rumors coming out surrounding him, but as of the making of this video, a trade hasn't happened yet. Now any team that makes this move is at a huge risk. They may have to give up a lot to get 2017's first overall pick, and then he could continue to play how he is and never get any better. Or he could play like he was supposed to when he went first overall, so it could really cost the team or pay off huge in a few years. And there's a good amount of teams that are looking to rebuild or desperately need a point guard and could make this trade work, like the Magic or a team like the Wizards. Now I don't know how likely it would be, but Philly could try and get Bradley Beal in return for Fultz and some first round picks, which would give the 76ers an insane starting 5. Or maybe the Cavs, who have already been talking to Philly about a trade, they could try and throw out an offer for Kevin Love, but if that doesn't work, they can find a deal revolving around swapping Fultz for Colin Sexton and some role players like Kyle Korver to give them more depth off the bench. Or they could even make a trade with a team like the Suns, who could center a deal around Trevor Ariza that could help Philly's bench, or even the Knicks, who have one of the best offers if they're willing to give up Tim Hardaway Jr., who's come out as one of the most improved players, putting up 24 a game this year. And there you have it. Now definitely comment your thoughts down below on these 8 players and the possible trades that I talked about. And also let me know if you have any other players or trades that I didn't mention that need to be made. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll catch you next video.